Elijah Turner had just arrived back home after years of studying abroad, filled with anticipation to finally experience the grandeur of the Grand Palace Hotel, the pinnacle of luxury and prestige. This wasn't just any hotel. It was a symbol of elegance, a landmark of success, and most importantly, it was the empire his mother, Olivia Turner, had built with her own hands. Though he had seen its towering structure grace the covers of countless magazines and had read glowing business reviews about its unmatched opulence, this would be his very first time stepping inside as a guest. The thought alone sent a rush of excitement through him. He had spent so many years away, and now that he was back, he was eager to witness firsthand the legacy his mother had built with unwavering dedication. As his car pulled up to the entrance, Elijah's breath hitched slightly. The Grand Palace stood before him, bathed in golden sunlight, its pristine white marble exterior gleaming. Towering columns framed the entrance like pillars of strength, and through the grand glass doors, a magnificent chandelier cascaded light in brilliant, shimmering reflections. A luxurious red carpet stretched from the curb to the grand lobby, where elegantly dressed guests moved with effortless grace, every step exuding wealth, power, and privilege. With a quiet sense of pride, Elijah stepped out of the car, rolling his sleek suitcase behind him. His polished shoes clicked against the flawless marble floors as he approached the entrance, expecting nothing less than the warm, impeccable service the Grand Palace was renowned for. But something felt off. It wasn't the grandeur. No, that was all still there. It was the way people looked at him. Subtle yet undeniable. Eyes flicked towards him, quick yet sharp, scanning him with silent curiosity before darting away. The doorman, who had just greeted another guest with a polished smile, suddenly hesitated before reaching for the door handle. The bellhop, who had been standing ready, took one glance at Elijah and turned away as if assuming he wouldn't be needing assistance. Behind the front desk, the hotel staff barely acknowledged his presence. Their expressions remained neutral. Too neutral. No welcoming nods, no polite smiles, just a cold professionalism that felt dismissive. Elijah straightened his posture, refusing to let the unspoken tension affect him. With confidence in his stride, he walked up to the reception desk, where a woman sat. Amanda Blake, the hotel's manager. She appeared to be in her early 40s, impeccably dressed in a navy blue suit, her short hair pinned neatly in place. Her eyes remained fixed on the glowing computer screen in front of her, her fingers gliding across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. She hadn't even glanced up. Clearing his throat, Elijah spoke with polite authority. "Excuse me," he said, offering a courteous smile. "I have a reservation under the name Elijah Turner." Amanda finally lifted her gaze, her expression unreadable as she took him in. Her eyes flickered over his crisp, tailored outfit, designer sneakers, well-fitted trousers, and an expensive dress shirt. But the moment her gaze settled on his face, something changed. The shift was almost imperceptible, yet Elijah caught it, the subtle flicker of skepticism, the hint of something colder in her demeanor. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her voice professional yet carrying an unmistakable edge of dismissiveness. Elijah's patience remained steady. He had seen this kind of treatment before, but he refused to let it rattle him. "Yes," he answered, keeping his tone calm and measured. "The Grand Palace Hotel, correct? Here's my confirmation." He pulled out his phone and held it out for her to see. Amanda barely glanced at it before snatching it from his hand. She examined the screen for only a second before handing it back, unimpressed. Without even looking at her computer, she muttered, "Humph." Then, after a deliberate pause, she began typing slowly, as if she were searching for a problem rather than a solution. Meanwhile, other guests were checking in effortlessly. A couple ahead of him received their keycards within minutes, exchanging warm smiles with the receptionist. A businessman strolled in, his check-in process smooth and efficient, his room confirmed without hesitation. Yet Elijah was left standing there. 5 minutes passed, then 10. His patience, though strong, was starting to thin. "Is there a problem?" he asked, keeping his voice firm yet steady. Amanda finally looked up, as if surprised he was still standing there. "It seems I can't find your reservation in the system," she said flatly. No apology. No effort to double-check. Just a cold statement. "Are you sure you booked here?" Elijah took a slow breath, reining in his growing frustration. "Yes," he said evenly. "I have the confirmation email. Would you like to see it again?" Amanda sighed. An exaggerated, unnecessary gesture. "That won't be necessary," she said, her tone making it clear she didn't believe him. Then, after a calculated pause, she added, "We don't allow walk-ins for high-tier suites." Elijah's jaw tightened. The assumption was ridiculous. "I'm not a walk-in," he said firmly. "I have a reservation under Elijah Turner." Amanda's thin-lipped smile remained, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I don't see it in the system," she said dismissively. "You might want to check another hotel." The words stung, not because of their content but because of the deeper meaning behind them. Elijah wasn't naive. This wasn't about a missing reservation. This was about something else entirely. Without another word, he turned away from the desk and walked over to the plush seating area of the lobby. He sat down, his suitcase beside him, and watched the hotel move around him. The Grand Palace was alive with motion. Guests arriving, bellhops efficiently carrying luggage, the distant clinking of champagne glasses from the bar. But for Elijah, seated there near the polished marble pillars, the world seemed eerily quiet. It was as if he had become invisible. Employees walked past him without acknowledgement. A waiter moved between tables, offering drinks to guests, but never once did his gaze land on Elijah. Even other guests seemed to glance at him only in passing, quickly averting their eyes as if pretending not to see him at all. Time stretched on. Minutes became an hour. The weight of being ignored settled heavier on his shoulders. Finally, Elijah stood, brushing non-existent dust from his trousers, and strode back to the front desk. Amanda was still there, her eyes glued to the screen. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but unwavering. "I've been waiting for over an hour. Can you check my reservation again?" Amanda looked up, her expression unreadable but laced with something he couldn't quite place. Expectation, perhaps? As though she had anticipated this moment. As though she had been waiting for him to give up. "I'm still unable to locate your reservation," she said, her voice smooth yet dismissive. "Maybe you've mistaken this hotel for somewhere else." A slow burn of frustration built in Elijah's chest, but he refused to let it show. "I am not mistaken," he said evenly. "And I'm not a walk-in. I booked in advance." Amanda ignored his words, her fingers tapping leisurely on the keyboard, moving without urgency, as if she had all the time in the world. Shifted instantly. The moment she saw them, her expression softened, her professional smile now warm and inviting. "Welcome to the Grand Palace Hotel," she said smoothly, her tone a stark contrast to how she had spoken to Elijah. "Do you have a reservation with us?" The couple nodded, handing over their documents, and within seconds, Amanda was swiftly clicking away on her keyboard. No delays, no hesitations. Within minutes, she handed them their key cards with a polite nod, gesturing toward the bellhop, who eagerly stepped forward to assist them. Elijah watched the entire exchange in silence, his frustration simmering just beneath the surface. The difference in treatment was undeniable, glaringly obvious. He had done everything right, arrived with a reservation, waited patiently, remained respectful, yet here he was, still waiting, still being dismissed. Taking a slow breath, he stood up and walked back to the desk, his steps measured, his expression unreadable. He wasn't here to beg for respect. He wasn't here to plead for basic decency. But he was done being ignored. Amanda barely glanced at him as he approached. Her lips pursed as though he were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "Sir," she said, her tone clipped, "I told you we're still processing." "No," Elijah cut in, his voice calm yet firm, his patience now worn to its limits. "You're not processing anything. I've sat here for over an hour, watching you check in guests without an issue. Yet somehow my reservation, the one I have confirmed right here, still doesn't exist." Amanda's eyes flickered, but she quickly masked it with indifference. "Sir, as I said, we have policies in place. Policies that apply only to certain guests." Elijah interrupted, his voice controlled but unmistakably sharp. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems those policies only matter when it comes to me." A silence settled between them, thick and heavy. The lobby, still bustling with movement and quiet chatter, suddenly felt much smaller. A few nearby guests stole curious glances at the unfolding scene. Amanda exhaled sharply, her fingers tapping against the desk in an impatient rhythm. "Sir, if you'd just be patient." "Patient?" Elijah let out a small, humorless laugh. "I have been patient. More than patient. But patience isn't the issue here, is it?" Amanda's gaze hardened, her carefully maintained professionalism slipping just slightly. "If you continue to cause a disturbance, I will have to ask security to escort you out." Elijah held her stare, unwavering. "A disturbance," he repeated. "Because I'm asking for the service I paid for?" A tense moment passed. Then, just as Amanda opened her mouth to reply, another voice cut through the air, sharp, authoritative, and laced with something that made the entire room still. "Elijah!" The voice belonged to Olivia Turner. Elijah turned just as his mother, impeccably dressed in an elegant ivory pantsuit, stepped into view. Her presence alone commanded attention, her sharp eyes sweeping across the scene before locking onto Amanda. The moment Amanda recognized her, the color drained from her face. "Mrs. Turner," Amanda stammered, her earlier confidence now faltering. Olivia held up a hand, silencing her instantly. She turned her gaze to Elijah, her expression unreadable for a brief second before softening just slightly. "How long have you been waiting?" Elijah exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Too long." A flicker of something, anger, disappointment, flashed across Olivia's face as she turned back to Amanda. "Would you like to explain why my son, the rightful heir to this hotel, has been standing here for over an hour while other guests are checked in without issue?" Amanda paled further. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The entire lobby was silent now. Staff members who had previously ignored Elijah now stood still, their expressions shifting uneasily. The bellhop, who had so easily dismissed him earlier, now looked anywhere but in Elijah's direction. Even the guests who had been watching the situation unfold suddenly found great interest in their surroundings.